Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. I am your host, Megan Hardy, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Miss Cam Brown. And Cam is a graduate from the University of Florida, where she studied exercise and nutritional science, and she now runs Integrity Nutrition Coaching and is based out of Charleston, South Carolina, East Coast girls. Cam focuses on serving busy women who are both professionals and moms, and really focuses on like the whole food nutrition to regulate both hormones, gut health, and overall quality of life. So, Cam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Super excited.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. Well, and you're like, right up our alley with everything that I just introed you. Like, I think all of our listeners are like, oh, yes, that's me, professional, busy mom, regulating hormones, gut health, all that good stuff. And I would just love for you to share, what your backstory was or is, and like how you got into the fitness and nutrition space. Cause I think most coaches get into it because they have some kind of history or backstory or something they were trying to fix about themselves. And now we're helping other people. So I would love for you to just share, where you came from, your story, and also kind of getting into our first topic about like balancing mom life and how you're able to do that with your nutrition and fitness goals.
Yeah, awesome. So I would say I'm kind of more on the generic side of the story of how I started my health and fitness journey because I grew up an athlete. So I started playing sports at a young age. I moved towards just lacrosse as I got older. That's what I ended up going to college and playing at University of Florida. So obviously very health and nutrition minded to get to that type of college level of playing any sport, in my opinion. And then I think the typical thing happened. I graduated, and even though my majors were in exercise and nutrition, I kind of had what I call my bartender fun stage. So after college, I didn't do anything with my degree. I was working at a couple gyms, but then I started bartending and helped my friend open a couple breweries. So I was kind of stuck in that era of life, which was really fun. It was very social. I lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a little while, which was like capital of breweries. When I was bartending, I worked at Wicked Weed when it was sold to Budweiser. So it was like all this stuff
Cool.
going on. Yeah, it was super fun. And that's kind of, I met my husband there in Asheville. We got married there. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of our fun period of bartending, he was also bartending at different places. We found out I was pregnant with my daughter, which big reality check. Any mom listening to this remembers when you're just like a newlywed and kind of oblivious, and then you're like, boom, pregnant. You're like, oh, I got to grow up.
Boom.
So yeah. And it was like, we were like, oh, we're not going to have a kid for like the first 2 years, but we weren't like making sure we wouldn't. So it was like
Yeah.
6 months after we got married. So it was a very short newlywed phase, but I actually feel like it was such a huge blessing because that's kind of where the shift happened. My husband was also a college athlete, and we had kind of just both gone really far from our roots in health and nutrition. We were probably the most unhealthy that we had ever been in our lives while we were
Mm.
together. In that period, we were just drinking, eating fast food. We weren't really exercising regularly, like maybe once in a while, but it was like not part of our routine, which is insane to say now. And so we obviously had to change that while I was pregnant. I think I gained 70 pounds with Rowan. And that was the heaviest I'd ever been in my life. So like 225, 230-ish. And then Rowan came out and she was all of 8 pounds, a little bit under 8 pounds. And I was like, but wait, what about the rest of this? And it was my wake up call. I laugh about it now, but I was so miserable and just super, super unhappy with myself. I was picking fights with Corey. I didn't have any clothes that fit. I was the bottom of the bottoms. That's what I call like my wow, time to change things. But
Mm.
before I successfully changed things, I dove into all the unsustainable things. So I was doing group fitness like 5, 6 days a week. I was eating really, really restrictive diets, like 1,200 calories. I was trying all the fad diets. And so for the first year of Rowan's life, I was avoiding the camera and feeling like a failure, not only because I was a new mom, but also because I couldn't get any progress in weight loss. I would lose a little bit, gain it back, lose a little bit, gain it back. Um, and then that's when I call it my sweet potato moment, actually. And I tell all my clients about this story. Everyone in my community knows this story because I was on this probably like the fourth or fifth super unsustainable diet, where I was literally eating like 40 grams of carbs a day, which is insane. So it was like 10 grams of carbs a meal. And were busy. We had a daughter that was under a year old. At the time, I was working at a group fitness gym, and I had opened that morning. So I got there like 4 a.m., stayed, like worked my shift, then took the class after my group fitness class, got home. Corey had to go to work because we were baby swapping at the time. So then I'm like home with my baby, exhausted, and I'm sitting down to eat. And when you have 10 grams of calorie or carbs a meal, it's like all meat.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't go very far.
like 4 or 5 strawberries, maybe. And I just remember looking at this plate of chicken breast and strawberries and like just feeling I hated it. I was so over it. And I like looked into the kitchen from our dining room and saw like the sweet potatoes on the counter. And if you know me, you know one thing, I love sweet potatoes. I love them all the ways. That's been my
Yes.
favorite food for so long. They're so good. And I just looked over and I was just like, screw this. I'm eating a sweet potato. This diet is stupid. And then that's when I decided that there had to be a better way to do it. There was definitely killing myself, not eating was not working. And so I kind of like mind checked myself and went back to my roots of like strength training and just what I'm supposed to be doing. And I stopped doing group fitness. I started eating enough. And then probably about 8 months later, I had lost like the last 50 pounds that I had been trying to get off. And I went to being like probably the best shape of my life, even better than when I was playing college sports.
Amazing. Amazing. I love it. And your sweet potato moment, I did not know that. So that's awesome.
Oh my God. And I was so mad. And I just saw the sweet potato and I was like, screw it, I'm eating it. This is
Screw
ridiculous.
it. And especially out of all the carbs, you're like, I really just want a sweet potato.
It's so good for you. It's a whole food. There's so many micronutrients, so much fiber. And I was like, not able to have it. It's ridiculous, but we all
Ridiculous.
have to learn.
Yes. Well, and I'm right there with you. I'm like, sweet potatoes are great, sweet or savory, stuffed sweet potatoes. I'm all about a stuff like stuffed with anything like Mediterranean. Like they're so good.
Yep. We do Mexican stuffed sweet potatoes. So you get the sweet and the spicy. Some jalapenos and salsa in that. Let's go.
So good. So good. Well, and one thing I wanted to ask you too is so you switched because you were really getting into the group fitness stuff. And then when you lost the 70 pounds, like, and you said you really lost that like last 50, when you started eating more food and switching things up. Also, what did you switch on the fitness side of things? What did you start doing instead of your group
I
X?
Yeah, I just started strength training to a progressive overload program. So all my mesos, and that's how I still work out now. I add in like one group fitness class a week just because I won't force myself to do cardio if not. And so it's more of like the social aspect and just like having someone be like, get 20 calories on the rower, and I'll be like, okay, and stuff like that. But it's like 8-week mesos. So I just say like simple as savage, right? Just long,
Yep.
8 weeks of the same moves, pretty much just trying to get stronger or maybe switching up tempo week to week, however that looks. And then you have like your deload week where you go same moves, but way lighter weight and lots more reps. And then you move on to the next meso. But
Then you move on to the next. Well, how did you, and
yeah,
especially when you had like that, that amount of weight to lose, because I know a lot of women really struggle with when they are doing a lot of cardio, and like what diet culture will normally tell you is like up your cardio to lose weight or lose fat. And like for you mentally, what was that? Was that a hard transition, or what was that like for you to like trust the process with strength training and adding more of that in versus like just overdoing the cardio side of things?
yeah, so for me it was such like a drastic just change because I was a coach at Orange Theory. Actually the one here in Charleston was like the busiest one in the country pre-COVID, so while I was there, and it might still be, I just never went back, so I don't know. And so I went from coaching that, but I was also really blessed because I worked out at a gym anyways, where my husband was working out. And it's like a bodybuilding gym, and it's actually ran by this guy named Trey, who is like the commissioner of the NPC. So I had
Oh,
like a really awesome like support group there already. And they used to always give me crap when they would see me go in there, because like it's mostly bodybuilding equipment, and then they have like a couple treads that people like walk on, and like one stairmaster. And I would always try to do like some hit style circuit, and they'd be like, why are you doing that, Cam? And like we had such a good relationship. So when I finally was like, you know what, this isn't working, I'm going to listen to you guys who had been trying to tell me to just lift for a while, it was a really easy transition for me because I had a great system, a support system. But there were times when it was slower. Well, actually, to be fully honest, I started seeing results way faster and felt way better. Being postpartum, I think that played a really big part of it. But also, Orange Theory, like, shout out to anybody that does Orange Theory like 5 times a week. It beats your body up. I was always
yeah.
sore. I was always hurting something. I felt exhausted all day long. And like as a new mom, I needed all my energy. So when I switched to eating more and then just weightlifting like 4 times a week instead of 6 times going to classes, everything felt better. I had more time in my schedule. I had more energy. And then I saw results pretty quick. So I think most of it is just knowing that that way will work and there's light at the end of the tunnel. But I can see for like a lot of our people that we work with, it can be pretty hard because they don't see the changes as quick because they're
Yeah.
usually staring at the scale. I was looking at a lot of other metrics, which helped me realize how much better I felt. And then the scale started coming too, which kind of put everything together.
Yes, yes. And I know exactly what you mean about like the beating your body up, like Orange Theory. A lot of any of our clients who do like 5 days a week or 6 days a week with some of those, or F45 or Orange Theory, things like that. And it's like incorporate those things if you find them fun and you really enjoy the community, but like they have a really hard time recovering after
Yeah.
those classes, just very taxing on your body. And also not hitting like those specific muscle groups like the same way as a more traditional strength training programming.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's so interesting. And for you, for you guys to rewind a little bit, you like when you became a mom, like prior to that, you were really in your like a most unhealthy place that you had been, even though you came from a nutrition background and studied it and whatnot in school. But was that turning point for you guys? Was it kind of having a kid that was like that, like, oh, we got to do something healthier or do something about this? Like, what was that? Because a lot of people are like, they're like, oh, my health falls off when I have a kid. But it sounds like you guys kind of got your act together when you found out you were pregnant.
Yeah, we totally had that mindset shift. For me, I knew I was just so unhealthy and like felt so horrible in my skin. And it's like so hard because you have like pictures and like all this stuff in your baby's like first year of their life. And like I would have done anything to avoid them. When like friends wanted us to like go over and hang out, I would literally, because I couldn't find like an outfit I felt comfortable in, I would end up like picking fights with Corey. And like my husband is a freaking angel. And I would just like make it his fault, pick a fight and just like cancel the plans just because I didn't feel good. And eventually I came to terms with it myself. Like, this isn't healthy. And then Corey, obviously, also gained some baby weight. But he says he was trying to support my weight gain. And I mean, I gained a lot of weight, so it would have been hard not for him to gain any. So I think it was more of like a mutual kind of conversation. We both, so like my family isn't very healthy, like my parents and stuff. And then his parents are split. And one side's really healthy and one side isn't. And so after Rowan came in, our daughter, into the world, and we were kind of talking about just changing everything, and you kind of get that reality check, like, all right, I now need to be alive as long as possible to take care of this person for as long as possible. So it definitely came comparing parents and lifestyles and stuff, and like what we wanted to be like and what we didn't want to be like. And that kind of meant, no more bartending till 2 a.m. I drink occasionally, but I'm like 95% sober. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a cocktail now. Corey will occasionally like have beers with friends, but it's like one or two, maybe like twice a month. We're so lame. It's fine.
That's about my MO nowadays too. So I'm lame too, I guess. But
yeah, I think like my friend just got married like this summer, and that was probably the last time I had a drink, and it was just for the cheers. And then I was just on the dance floor with water. So like I don't need alcohol to act like an idiot. I can just do that. So
I love that. I love that. Well, I also understand too, being in that place of like, you were so miserable in your own skin that you literally made up excuses or picked fights with Corey so that you wouldn't have to go out because you didn't want to like have to get dressed or take pictures or all the things, which also kind of leads into my next question for you and a topic about complexity bias. I would love for you to speak some on that, because that's what that kind of triggered in my brain, was like the tendency for people to, ignore some of the obvious things going on. So would you talk a little bit about that, about complexity bias and how you see that in your clients and in yourself?
Yes, I love this. So I'm like a really big nerd. Surprisingly, people don't think I'm a big nerd, but I am a very big nerd. And psychology has always been one of my just like things that has always piqued my interest. So I've always kind of looked into it. And there's this theory that's actually proven. So it's called the complexity bias, like you said, but it's simply just this human tendency that when there's a problem, we all go into the complexity bias, meaning we'll overlook the simple solutions to that problem because they're too simple. So that can't possibly be what would solve something. In the health and fitness industry, I think we see this 95% of the people that I talk to personally coming in. And it's just because, I'll be on a call with someone. I'll be like, okay, what do you think's going on? What have you tried? What do you think's holding you back from reaching your weight loss? And usually it's like, I think I have a hormone imbalance. I need to get blood work done. My body is just broken. Like there's something wrong with my metabolism. Things like that are the responses I get. And of course, we always want to treat these responses as valid. And I'm not saying they're ever not valid, but I am saying that before you jump into doing blood work and just assuming like you can never get anywhere, you need to cover the basics, the simple stuff, which is just like getting 7 to 8 to 9 hours of sleep, hitting your protein, getting out of a deficit. Number one thing, like I have so many women that are like, I have a hormone imbalance. I need to get tested. And I'm like, well, are you eating at maintenance? They're like, no, I've never ate at maintenance. I'm like, oh, you don't need to get tested. You do have a hormone imbalance. Like, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you are eating at a deficit, your body is imbalanced 100%. And they're just like, oh. And I'm like, so it's more of just like realizing that there are so many foundational, simple things you can do that will solve these complex problems. But like by our human nature, we overlook those. Like, no, getting more steps won't work for me. No, eating more whole food sources won't work for me. I need to get shots or HRT or something like that, when in reality, like you need to try these first, because even after you get the blood work, like I know tons of coaches that have functional medicine in their program, but before they let their clients get to that level, they make them do the basics first. And usually that clears up about 80 to 90% of the people that thought they needed it. And then we save you hundreds of dollars. So it's kind of like, just do the stuff first.
Yes. And I love that you said that too. It's like, yeah, HRT and things like that are really helpful when they are needed, and they can be for certain populations of people that really need some of that stuff. But if you're not doing the basics first, like I can't tell you how many women I've talked to too that are like, well, I just want to test to see. And it's like, to see if I need HRT or something else, but it's like, but you're not starting with the basics part first. It's like, let's start there first. And you might actually save yourself on having to pay for labs and HRT and all of the other things. But yeah, that's so true. I know for a lot of the women I talk to. Also, can you hear Oreo in the background? There's construction.
Oh, is your dog?
Yeah. Can you hear? That's my dog. We have construction going on outside of our house, and she's barking her head off. So sorry guys, if you can hear that.
It's very muffled. I just was wondering if it was my dog's or if it was yours. And then I was like, no, it's on that side.
No, it's on my side. It's on my side. So sorry guys. And of course, today, Justin, my husband's off, so he's not here to help me wrangle her. So she's just going to bark her head off. It's fine. But also I would love for you to kind of in that same vein, I would love for you to talk about, even like, I know a lot of people are, with that complexity bias, they're either leaning towards like HRT, or some of the really popular things out right now being like semaglutide and the weight loss drugs. Like, what's some of your take on that?
So this will probably make some people really happy or some people really angry. I get mixed emotions for feedback about this, guys. Medical weight loss is literally so horrible for you. It is a quick fix, and I understand the appeal of quick fixes. We have been so conditioned to want things instantly. But a couple of things with medical weight loss that I always like to talk about is just what it is and what it isn't. All right, number one, guys, all these shots, you don't just take the shot and it like magically evaporates the fat. That's not what is happening in medical weight loss. Like, and so we got to really look at what it's doing to your body. So pretty much it's a GLP-1 peptide. So that's just an amino acid that's found in the lining of your intestines. And then what that does is that controls your appetite. That's all that does. So when you take this medical weight loss shot, literally what it's doing is just controlling your appetite. So I get a lot of pushback when I talk out against these things. And we'll go into the side effects and the reasons why I speak out against them, from people who are like, I have never been able to lose weight until I got this shot. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but yes, you have been able, because literally all this shot is doing is decreasing your appetite, so you're not eating. So all we ever needed to do was decrease your intake. So it's like a very unpopular opinion, but that's the science behind it. It's not just evaporating your fat. And then when we get into the negative things that it does, semaglutide, Wegovy, all of that stuff, they now have Ozempic, 2 black box warning labels from the FDA. The first one is for thyroid tumors. Guys, the only reason it's for thyroid tumors right now and not thyroid cancer is because they haven't been on the market long enough to change that thyroid tumor warning to a cancer warning. They need more research, but I am fully confident in my soul that very soon it'll be switched to they cause thyroid cancer. And then the second black box label warning that they just put on there actually happened about a week ago, and it is about stomach paralysis. So what happens when you mess with your GLP-1 is that a couple of things go on. Number one, you're decreasing your appetite overall by switching some hormone messaging in your HPA axis. Now, guys, if you're not sciencey and nerdy, you're probably like, I don't know what any of that means, but just know that you should never want to mess with your HPA axis, because it is the engine of everything, the engine. So that alone, adding anything made by a human into that it's scary stuff, and it should just not be done. But also what happens is it increases nausea, and it can even make people physically sick. And then some other big side effects, appendicitis is something that there are multiple class action lawsuits going on for right now. And I think in another 2 months will be the third black box warning label that the FDA makes them put on their packaging. And so overall, it's just not healthy for you. And it's so bad. And the rapid weight loss, and this is where I have a bunch of clients that came to me after medical weight loss. They were able to lose 50, 60, some of them even 70 or 80 pounds within like 4 months, 4 to 6 months. They came off of it. And guys, when you lose that much weight in 4 to 6 months, that is unsustainable weight loss. You're losing your muscle mass. Now, muscle burns more calories at rest. Like right now, when we're sitting here talking, Megan's killing me on how many calories at rest she's burning, because she has so much more muscle mass than me. But that's totally fine. That's why you want to protect your muscle.
I thought you were going to say it's because I'm standing, because I'm using my standing desk.
Oh, no. Well, no, you are just jacked, so it wouldn't even matter. But what that means is that on the backside of coming off of these shots, is that you no longer have that high threshold for where your calories were every day. So if you were already struggling with weight, you were already surpassing that with your intake. And the shots don't teach anything about lifestyle. So then you come off the shots, you've decreased how much you're burning in your day because you've lost weight and most of that was muscle mass. And so when you start getting that appetite back that was suppressed for months on this shot, all of a sudden the weight comes back. Now, I had one lady who lost almost 80 pounds and she gained almost double that back post
Oh my
shots. And
goodness.
now it's like starting from scratch because she lost most of her muscle mass. We got her on an InBody, which she said she did an InBody like month 4 of being on medical weight loss, and her muscle mass is almost half of that.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
it's just one of those things, guys. And I know it's tough when, like, because honestly, I remember when I hated myself, if someone was like, here, take a shot and it'll make the weight go away, I probably would have signed up for it too, which is the scary part because I feel like a lot of medical providers are not having the serious conversations that need to be had. Here in South Carolina, you can go to like a med spa down the street and I could walk in and be like, I'd like the semaglutide, please. And they'd be like, sure, here you go. Sign on the dotted line. No conversation, no nothing. So it's just one of those things. I'm really big on women empowering themselves and making sure that everyone's doing their research when it comes to any choice that you're making for your temple, your body, the one place you live, your whole life. Like, research it.
Yeah.
And sometimes be honest with yourself. And if it sounds too good to be true, guys, if you've been trying to lose weight for years and years and years, and this shot all of a sudden is like, oh, I got you 3 months, question it. Question
Mhm.
it. And that's just my
Yeah.
little
My little rant. Well, and that's one thing, like you said, like your client who gained like double it back, but then she's actually so much worse off because a part of what she lost was the muscle mass. So like what your body's going to gain back, if you are going to gain stuff back, it's not going to be muscle that's going to gain back. It's going to be more fat. And then you have less muscle. So worse metabolism by the end of it. So like double whammy because less muscle and more body fat. What were some of the other negative side effects and symptoms that you've seen with it?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I was just honestly, I'm friends with some influencers in Charleston, and like totally different worlds. I think it's really funny. And she honestly had her appendix removed. She was, signed a contract with one of these med spas, and they were like, yeah, promote semaglutide, and she is very instant gratification minded, and she did it. And then she's been off of it for like 2 months, and she just had super big pains, like the most pain she's ever been in on Friday night. And she had to get her appendix out. And I messaged her and I was like, I hope you're okay. Like, what happened? And she told me what happened. And I was like, that's like a class action lawsuit right now for semaglutide. And she's like, are you serious? And I, of course, when I saw that she was promoting it, was like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, at her. And she's like, I hate it. I'm nauseous the whole time. She would like throw up with nothing. She's like, I think I'm throwing up stomach bile. And I was like, can you please just stop doing this? And she's like, didn't ever need to do it either. Like, is the thing. Like, she wasn't like, she could have added more protein to her diet and less takeout and been fine.
Oh
So
my
it's,
gosh.
yeah, but
Well, you had me
that's
at appendicitis. I had my appendix removed. And so I'm like, oh no, nothing. That pain is so bad. I'm
that's
like,
like, she was like, it's like the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I'm like, well, like, yeah, I'm sure it's horrible, but it's also like, she didn't even know that that was a side effect of semaglutide, which is like one of the biggest side effects that like doctors should be telling people about, because for that one, to the point, like, it's about to get, like, they're about to go broke, I think, because there's a huge class action lawsuit. But now I'm like, well, maybe you can join that lawsuit, I guess. Like,
yeah, I guess tell your friend to join the lawsuit. But no, I
but
mean,
it's just,
yeah, I'll go ahead.
oh no, that's just like, there's so many like little things. The stomach paralysis really freaks me out because I'm so rooted in gut health. And guys, like, if you're worried about like hormone imbalances or anything, like, the answer to that is in your gut. So whenever I hear that there's something out there that is going to mess with your gut, they're finding food that has been undigested in people who have stopped taking these shots. When they stop, their stomachs aren't working. And they're finding like 48-hour-old food in their intestines. And that's like, no, that should never happen. And that's why it is now a official warning from the FDA on all of these shots. But yet people are still signing up to get them. And like the only thing I can think is that doctors aren't telling people, because if I went in to get anything and they were like, oh yes, these are the things that are happening and proven by the FDA, which as someone who is more holistic minded, I don't really trust the FDA. So if we agree on something for once, like y'all better be listening, because they're not telling you the worst stuff. They're telling you enough stuff to like get it off the radar and still make a bunch of money. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, that's how I feel about it.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, yes. Yeah. If you actually were like, oh, wait, we're in alignment. Wow, we really should listen up to what they're saying right now about this. Well, and I've seen, I mean, I've in some groups and whatnot, I've talked to some ladies who are using it, and some of my clients have too. And like, we thankfully with some of them, they've got started working with us to start working on the basics to like wean off of, the weight loss drug so that hopefully they don't gain it all back. But so like it's here, it's like we need to work with it. And if someone does, that is their choice to do it. But to your point, it's like they have to know, or you should know, the potential risks and side effects. And then if you still want to do it, that's your call. But then it's like work on the basics also, and then also know the risks and side effects that come with it. But I mean, I've been in some groups and hear just women's stories and stuff about like not only like the physical side effects, but they're like, I have no energy to get up for the day. Like I just don't feel like myself. Like I feel awful. I'm like, literally my personality is not the same. My energy is not the same.
HPA axis, guys, that controls everything, literally everything about you, your energy levels, your moods, your sex drive, your reproductive system, your brain. That is like, if you could short circuit one thing in one person to mess them up, it would be their HPA axis. And here we are just like shooting something into it, and everybody's like, it'll be fine. And I'm like, no.
Well, what would be well, what would be like some of your advice? And I just appreciate this conversation so much, and your take on all of this. What would be some of your advice for someone who is, maybe considering some weight loss drugs, or the person who wants all of the labs and wants to see, do all of the diagnostic work and the labs and considering HRT and all the things, like maybe who has a little bit of that like complexity bias that isn't looking at some of the basics? Like, what would you tell them before they go like spending hundreds of dollars on labs, all of that? Like, what would you tell them to get started with today? Or like, where should they start looking first if they were going to take something away from this?
Yeah. So I always think it's really important to just remember one thing about your body, and that's that it is the most advanced piece of technology or anything that will ever be created in the world. We will never be able to mimic it or surpass it. There are so many things that our body does without us even having to think about it to protect us. And the body's number one goal isn't, to be shredded or to weigh a certain amount. It's to literally survive as long as possible. So when we have things going on like weight gain or low energy, or we think we even get our blood work and there's an imbalance, all that I like really think that people should understand is that your body is smart enough to fix that naturally. Everything can be fixed naturally. And in order for you to fix it naturally, you need to identify what you're maybe doing incorrectly in your lifestyle, in your diet, in your movement routine, in the toxins in your environment. You need to identify what your triggers are that are causing your body to create that imbalance, because your body isn't just having an imbalance. Like that is very, very rare. Like there are some people out there, there's some genetic disorders, like maybe, but that is like 1% of people. And for the majority of the people that are probably listening to this podcast or that we're probably going to reach, that's probably not you, babe. Hate to say it, but you are probably not that 1%. And what you need to do is figure out what you're not giving your body. Now, some simple steps that I always tell my ladies to like complete to kind of get their body into the right hormone balance and feeling better, number one, stop eating at a deficit. Guys, if you are eating in a deficit, if you're eating below your maintenance calories, you are putting your body in a hormone imbalance. So you can't put it in a hormone imbalance and then be like, I don't know why I'm in a hormone imbalance. So like, that's the number one thing that will fix everything. Your body doesn't know that there's a grocery store on every corner. It doesn't know you have a fridge full of food or a pantry full of food, or that there's a place for takeout that you can drive to and you have money to get it. It just knows that it needs a certain amount of calories or energy to get all the stuff done it needs to get done in a day. And it knows you're not giving it to it. And that's when it automatically knows, like, after it's been pretty consistent of you not giving it what it needs, it's like, hey, I might need to store up because I can't do all the things I'm supposed to do. And apparently food is scarce, right? So that's the number one thing, get out of your deficit. Okay. Number two, guys, sleep. And nobody likes to hear this one. And I don't know why you don't like to hear this one, but when do you think your body repairs and rebalances? During sleep. So if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, which I understand, I have a lot of night shift nurses, and that's a whole different like ball game of things that we need to work with, but you need to be sleeping 7 to 9 hours, preferably like making sure you're getting enough of your REM and like feeling good in that REM sleep and all of that. But that's the second thing that I tell people, that, you know, none of these are like the sexy, flashy ways, guys. This is just the truth. The simple stuff. Number three, get outside 20 minutes a day in the vitamin D. Getting it from the sun. Like, there's a VDR on almost every cell and tissue in our body, so a vitamin D receptor. And there's nothing else besides your thyroid hormones in every cell and tissue in your body. The sun is so important for so many things, for your melatonin, like just for your whole circadian rhythm, which is literally like the clock of your body, and that controls your cortisol, your just all the things, your serotonin. Get outside. I try to tell my clients to at least spend 20 minutes outside a day. It will change your life. And for us, especially in this day and age, we work out inside, we work inside, we're maybe outside walking into the grocery store. So as simple as that sounds, it will make so many people feel better, especially if you can do it like first thing in the morning. If you can like have the life where you're blessed, where you can get up and go for a walk within the first 2 hours of being awake, and that walk is like 20 minutes long, like you will notice the difference in your energy levels and just how everything's functioning. Like vitamin D from the sun, which is not the same as the supplements we take, has the power to like affect every cell and tissue in your body. So it's pretty important. So that's something else. And then water. Water. These are the basics, guys. Nobody likes them. Water, pretty much like a hydrated cell is an anabolic cell. Being anabolic just means your body is preserving muscle mass, building up tissue. That's pretty much where you want to be. If you feel like you have a hormone imbalance and you're not drinking water, like that is one of the things that will set off your stress response and increase your cortisol, is just being dehydrated, chronically dehydrated. Your body needs water to repair, to digest your food, to transport nutrients, to run your brain and pump your blood. So it's not complicated. It's simple and savage. Those are my 4 that I tell everyone to start.
Simple and savage. You're like, it's not sexy, but it's simple and savage. Okay. So that's
and they're like pretty much free. Like all of that is pretty much free. Like obviously you pay for food, but like water, walking and outside, those are free, guys. Like instead of jumping to these huge bills of things that are kind of unsustainable, because you can't just like take shots for the rest of your life and stuff like that, or do HRT or whatever, like try the free stuff first that works, that has worked for years and years and years. And then if that still isn't fixing your issues, you know, I would say work with a coach past that and like get it more tailored to you and what you need. And then maybe past that, go see some blood work and doctors and stuff like that.
So good. So good. Get back to the basics. My favorite freebie is the sun for sure. I'm like such a sun goddess. I'm like, my dermatologist hates me, you know, she's like, are you putting on your SPF? But
nope, I am not actually.
Nope,
I'm SPF. Yeah, I'm a lizard. I tell all my clients I'm a lizard. They're like, is it nice in South Carolina? Cameron hasn't been answering my messages. And I'm like, sorry, I'm at the beach because the sun came out. And they're like, of course.
because the sun came out. How close are you to the beach too? To the actual beach?
Minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's
good.
I've like taken like metabolic assessments on the beach with like people, and I'm like, if you hear the waves and the birds, it's because I'm on the beach. I'm sorry, I'm still tuned in.
I'm still tuned in, I promise.
I'm here with you.
So good. So good. Well, thank you for all of your insights. This has been amazing. And hopefully anyone listening to this has some takeaways to go implement the simple and what was it? Simple and savage tips that Cam gave you. Cam, where can everyone find you? What's the best place to reach you?
So obviously Instagram, I'm there. You can DM me there. That's Camby904. On Facebook is probably where a lot of my like free stuff is, where you can find me. So that's Cam Michelle Brown. And then I'm on TikTok, but I'm like really old, so I'm not there a lot, and I just feel out of place there. So you can also find me as Coach Camby. I pop in occasionally.
Perfect. And I'll add all of that in the show notes, you guys, so you can go check her out. But Cam, thank you so, so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Megan.